Vacuoles. So what are vacuoles? Vacuoles are fluid-filled membrane-bounded sacs. Again, these are like vessels which are filled with some fluid and surrounded by a membrane, right? So this is how a vacuole looks like in a plant cell. So you can see a big structure, right? Quite big structure which is surrounded by a membrane, and this is filled with a fluid. So let us have a look at the vacuoles in animal cells. So vacuoles are small sized in animal cells when compared to the plant cells. Not all animal cells have vacuoles. There are very few animal cells which actually have vacuoles. Some of the examples are amoeba. The first example which I have displayed here is amoeba. So in amoeba you have this vacuole, the food vacuole. Similarly, you have another vacuole, that is contractile vacuole. So you can have multiple vacuoles. You can have more than one vacuole, but the size of each of the vacuole is small. So the food vacuole will help in intake of food to intake the food material. Similarly, the contractile vacuole will help in the contraction. Similarly, another example is a ciliate. Ciliate, what is a ciliate? The protozoa which has got this hair-like structures called cilia throughout its body, right? So here also they have got a digestive vacuole which helps in digestion. Again, it has got another contractile vacuole which helps in movement, right? So the different types of vacuole will have its different function, but in animal cells it is generally seen that their size is small. On the other hand, in plant cells, the vacuoles are large size. That's because vacuoles are mainly used to store water, to store a fluid, right? So because of that storage, vacuoles are generally large in size. And the membrane covering the vacuole is known as tonoplast. So here you can see how big a vacuole is. So this is the vacuole. So this blue colored structure is the vacuole, and the light blue colored covering or the membrane of the vacuole is known as tonoplast, right? Okay. What is the significance of vacuole? What purpose does it solve? In plant cells, it contains cell sap and therefore provides rigidity to the cell. So it makes the plant cell quite rigid. So you can see that there are several things which provides rigidity to the plant cell. For example, you have the cell wall, which is again an additional feature of plant cell, and that also provides rigidity to the plant cell. Similarly, these vacuoles which contain a fluid, that fluid is known as cell sap. So because of the presence of this fluid, it provides rigidity to the plant cell. It also helps in the storage of amino acids, sugars and proteins. As I mentioned before also, the more and more organs you have to store things, the better it is. So again, this is another organ which helps in storage of amino acids, sugars and proteins. Now, what is its purpose in animal cells? Maintenance of water balance. For example, expels excess water or wastes in protozoa. Now, the example which I took in the previous slide, right, the ciliate. That is a kind of protozoa. So in those cases, vacuoles maintains water balance. When there is too much of water inside the cell, vacuole expels out some water. Similarly, when there is shortage of water, it can store some water, right? So it helps to maintain the water balance. It also helps in ingestion of nutrients. That means it helps in intake of food. The food, for example, the food vacuole in amoeba. You looked at the structure of amoeba in one of the previous slides, right? So there you had a food vacuole. So that vacuole actually helps in the intake of nutrients. So that's what I mentioned. Depending upon its function, there are many different types of vacuoles. Food vacuole, which helps in intake of food. Similarly, you have contractile vacuole, right? Similarly, you have digestive vacuole, which helps in the digestion. So depending upon its function, the vacuoles have got many different names. But mostly it is more common in plant cells. It is bigger in size in plant cells, more in number, and it also provides rigidity to plant cells. In plant cells, vacuole also perform another function. That is the function which is performed by lysosomes in animal cells. As I mentioned before, that the presence of lysosomes in plant cells is quite disputed. Many people say that lysosomes are not present in plant cells. So the function of lysosomes, that it used to digest the waste products. So that is also performed by vacuoles to some extent in plant cells.